And we are live. So I'm your host, Louis Vandervalk with the Blue Crocus Experience, and I'm joined today by Leigh Kuhn, a fellow Canadian out in Ontario. I'm in New Brunswick, but Leigh has a lot of irons in the fire. We were just briefly chatting earlier about one of his businesses, but we connected through the asphalt industry, through RynoWorx, his melter company, which he's gonna talk some more about. But awesome to have you here, Leigh. Really appreciate you hopping on. Excited to hear more about what you have going on.
Likewise. Thanks, Louis.
For sure. So can you tell us, a little bit about where you came from and where you're going, I guess, just with it, I guess.
Give me a timeline or give me a limit on how long you want me to talk for, because I could go for a couple hours on this one. But
I got time. Just the 5 minutes we did already was pretty interesting. So
fair. So I mean, I'm an Ontario guy, born and raised. I spent from a kind of split family. Spent earlier days living kind of in the city, Waterloo, like suburb of Toronto. I mean, you probably know Waterloo, but for anyone else that doesn't. And yeah, I mean, I had an amazing group of friends going through high school. Decided, and I'm kind of fast tracking this one, at last year of grade 11 to just take a bail. All my friends were planning on going to college, university, and it's just like it never really dawned on me that was like my path. I just never for a second did I think about it, and kind of from that point on, it was very much okay. Well, not going to do that, so I've got to figure out how to get my hands dirty and what I'm going to do to kind of satisfy my career urges. So yeah, I never ended up finishing high school. So I mean, I'll start with that, and there's a long precursor to that kind of goes back with families. But I'm gonna, in the interest of getting through a podcast and giving more information, I'm gonna keep going.
There you go.
During high school, I actually worked at a call center, so I kind of developed my selling skills from that. I learned how to deal with people, and during my last 2 summers of high school, so grade 10 when I got my full license, and grade 11 before I left, I started an asphalt maintenance business.
Okay.
So this is me at, just under 17, like
your driver's license, you're saying.
17th birthday, got my full G license.
Yeah.
Had my dad help me go pick up a truck I'd been saving for, and bought a small seal coating unit for the back of my Ford Ranger, 100-gallon tank, spraying water-based acrylic sealer, and that was it. Like that, that was kind of the starting point of my, working for myself, never looking back to a job. And so I did that kind of coming out of grade 10 before grade 11. And
how do you get clients for that? Did you just knock on doors, or?
Yeah, so initially in grade 10, it was all door knocking. Get a truck, fill up on sealer. There'd be enough sealer in the tank to do $3,000 in business, give or take. So yeah, I was just by myself, out hitting doors. I would maybe nail down 2-3 jobs a day, which, putting into perspective, a grade 10 minimum wage was like $6.50 an hour.
Yeah.
My friends were working part-time jobs at grocery stores over the summer, making $150 a week. And my first day of doing this, I did like $700 in work on $200 in materials. So I was like, yeah, it was an instant. I don't think that I couldn't visualize myself in another area at that time.
Yeah.
Just like, this makes sense.
When the 11th grade came around, it wasn't really.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, I got to be outside, work with my hands, and I think developing those face-to-face skills and kind of interacting with people, and the mix of that plus getting my hands dirty, it kind of built a little bit of, it kind of forged me a bit, in terms of making me a little bit harder.
Yeah.
It helped me, I think it's responsible for having kind of put together the skills that I have today, and for a lot of the relationships I have today. So kind of moving from grade 10, grade 11, I kind of already gave you the outcome there. After grade 11, I had a good summer, decided, I don't think I see any real reason to, go to college. At this point, I was living on my own because my parents had split.
Okay.
And my dad had moved to Nova Scotia. My mom was local, but I didn't really want to live with my mom, and I didn't want to move away from my group of friends and my kind of my grounded relationship. So I kind of made that call. Kind of coming up to like my 18th, I guess it'd be my 18th birthday, I think here. Yeah, in around 18. I did the driveway thing for another year. Kind of coming out of grade 11, going into like what would have been, say, my 18th birthday. I opened a call center to be able to start doing telemarketing. And my theory behind this was like, okay, I'd worked 2 summers. I knew how to get business door to door, but it's like, you can only knock so many doors in a day. Like, it just seemed I didn't have the vision for how
the
to
driving time and everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't really have the vision for scaling that the same way. Coming from the call center background, I knew telemarketing very well.
Right.
So I opened a small call center in like the basement of like a business building for like $400 a month. A friend of mine from work, a couple of friends actually that worked with me at the previous call center, came along with me and helped me part-time. So one of them actually ended up making a DOS dialing database that just took. So we imported phone numbers from what's called Select Phone or Info USA. Okay. So Info USA used to be a big wholesaler of people's phone numbers and addresses. So we took that database, refined everything in it, and sorted and grouped numbers by subdivision. So we could kind of say, we have 3,000 numbers in this geographical location all across kind of our region.
And this was in Ontario, even though you were buying from Info.
This was Ontario. This was like Waterloo, Kitchener, Cambridge. And yeah, I mean, that was the foundation of the telemarketing for driveway sealing business. And that kind of took the business from like where I was doing 3-4 jobs a day on my own and doing everything to, I had a couple of callers working evenings, like 3 to 9s, generating anywhere from like 60 to 70 leads per night. And then the next day, I would get in my Neon, like map out and MapQuest every address I was going to sequentially. Yeah. Some of them would be like next door neighbors. Some of them I'd drive down a block, and literally like I had a printable, detachable form that had the address printed on both sides, a duplicate copy of the estimate. I would give a written estimate, leave it in the mailbox, and then follow up with each of those leads personally later that night.
Okay, so a couple things we've got to address here. You're 18 at this time?
Yeah.
Okay, and then how would you keep track of everybody you had to follow up with?
So like on paper. So we had the dialing database would store people that said yes.
Okay.
But the real thing was paper. I mean, carbon. We had, when we drop an estimate off, we would do
half.
Yeah, like anywhere from 50 to 100. Keep half of the piece. Keep the services listed on it, so it's a duplicate copy, and then literally have a stack of cards, that high to go through. And yeah, I mean, the closing rate at that time was, I look back and I'm like, man, like my only mistake was not charging more money, because we immediately, like, I didn't really think about it, but it's like we just hit capacity right away, and it's like we ran at capacity. And at 18, I think that, what do you know at 18? Like I wasn't, there was no specific education for the business that I was in. So I never really glued together the fact that, hey, I could do a lot more out of this. I could probably increase my prices 40, 50% and make a lot more money. It just, at that time, making, like after everything's done, making $1,500 or $2,000 a week was like unbelievably substantial for an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
So it just never dawned. It never really clicked in to do more with it.
Right.
So that business kind of, went on from 18 to 19. When I was 19, the recognition was there that I have a long winter where I can't do anything. So I started doing the exact same thing for air duct cleaning, like indoor air duct cleaning.
Okay.
Bought into an equipment package for it, learned how to do it, and started selling that exactly the same way. Phones, leads. Yep. The estimates were over the phone rather than in person, and then a follow-up and close. I mean, I was. So
would the follow-up be in person?
Everyone here probably has received a call from someone trying to sell them air duct cleaning.
Yeah.
We were probably, like, I want to say that other than maybe Sears, we were probably the first company to ever do that, like on a large scale.
Wow.
So I did that until like from kind of winter of 18 turning 19 through 19 for a year. Ended up selling the entire service business for what I thought was a huge sum of $40,000
Okay.
to my bookkeeper, um, which, looking back, it's like, you idiot, like, why did you sell that for so little?
Yeah.
But part of the learning experience. And then that summer, through a friend that had worked at my call center, I got introduced to to one of his buddies that was going to university at Waterloo at the time. He just came into an inheritance, and we kind of met up at the same time where we both had some cash. I just finished, exiting this business, and I was looking for something to do. And this was all around the time. So 2005, eBay was kind of up and coming. E-com was starting to grow, mixed with, Chinese product, and sourcing, was in its booming days, for just new product, new things, new sourcing, and huge opportunity, global sources in Alibaba, the whole like sourcing network. So this was also at the time where pocket bikes became a craze. So if you remember, like those mini crotch rockets or mini dirt bikes, or where like they were everywhere. Like you couldn't go to a rural street corner and not see someone with one of those in like 2006, 7, 8. So at the very beginning of that, I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever to like see those like mini crotch rockets. I had cash. I'm like, naturally, I'm gonna go buy a whole bunch of these and figure out how to sell them.
Right.
So I originally linked up with a company in California.
So wait, did you sell your duct cleaning and your sealing business all like together? Okay, gotcha. Oh, yeah. that was really low then. Okay.
Yeah. No, it was a dumb move. My valuation, I was not using the EBITDA valuation at that point.
Okay.
When I gave a number.
Anyway, California. Sorry.
Yeah, so I started importing a truckload of pocket bikes, partnered with Matt, my partner, who'd be my partner for quite a while. And yeah, we brought in 120 of these things in a truck, loaded up the the rental space that we had. And to be honest, like I'm trying to think of the first steps we took to sell them. eBay. So we went to a third-party eBay store. And I don't know if this was a thing where you were, but there was a lot of eBay consignment stores opening when eBay started, like stores basically selling your stuff on eBay for you.
Okay, yeah, so, I've never heard of that actually.
So we started with a business called We Sell It, and I think they still exist to this day. Although I think that they dropped the consignment sales business and started just importing and doing their own thing. I think we were the catalyst to them realizing that there's a lot more money if you just import stuff than selling other people's junk.
Right.
But yeah, we started selling through them. So basically, we were paying them a commission to sell the product. We offloaded the entire 120 units in like a month and a half, which was awesome because we made a good profit off of it and didn't do anything other than literally shift boxes to We. So the next round decided that, okay, well, we paid a decent penny for these things from California. Like, let's go direct. Like, let's try and find a supplier. So I hopped on and started sourcing on global sources, found a supplier that was located in Hong Kong that was dealing with mainland, and bought like 280 of them, like a full 40-foot container. And yeah, that was kind of the beginning of my import experience, where it was like, all right, like doing all this stuff, not knowing a clue what I'm doing, no clue how to import anything, just literally going step by step and being, looked upon like I'm an idiot each step of the way when I screw something up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of the beginning of, my import experience. And, going beyond that, that scaled from doing a couple of pocket bikes, with We Sell It, to 3 or 4 years later, I want to say 23, 24, we were doing full ATVs, like a full range of power sports products.
All imported again?
All imported. Kind of still at this point, I hadn't really figured out, the meaning behind what I was doing. Like I was doing business, but not with the right tools, understanding, experience, or objectives. Gotcha. It was just like, I'm selling stuff. But like
money, and it seems like everything's going well.
I wasn't reading a P&L every month, and making adjustments based on good or bad results. I was just tossing more money out there, buying and selling more stuff, thinking it was great that I could go out in the weekends and not have to have a budget on what I spent to support my personal habits.
Right.
So that all kind of fizzled down when I was like 24, turning 25, more or less from, again, not really having. Matt was my partner at the time. There was no clear defined objectives in the business. It was just like we had a good ride, and wound up walking away from that experience with a reasonable bit of family debt, which leads me to kind of like the next chapter of, well, family debt can't just be dismissed. It has to be paid.
Right. Right.
So, him and I both
Family
left
debt,
that.
meaning like your
Like
family.
we owed money to our family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both of us. So we had about 150 combined. We're about 150 grand in the hole after that whole soiree. And finishing that business, we were left with parts. So like servicing ATVs, like we had tons of parts for all the different stuff that we sold. That was all that was left. And we didn't really have a way of selling it because the only time we'd ever sold parts before was on demand. When someone that bought a bike needed a part, they came to us, but it never really kicked in that there could be a market for it. So we started selling those parts. I started researching the products online, looking at what we actually had as a parts inventory. And I quickly realized that a lot of the parts we had weren't actually for Chinese vehicles or like offshore vehicles. They were for brand name stuff. Like we had parts that fit Polaris, Honda, Yamaha, all the main brands. Well, the key there was, we had carburetors and we had, minor items that costed, a few dollars, or in some cases 50 cents, a couple bucks, that were worth in cases $50, $100, $200 at retail.
Right.
So this clicked. So, we immediately opened our own eBay account, started basically getting all of our parts up online. I started cross-referencing all of the different fitment for all the different parts that we had, and researching values and starting to sell. And
meanwhile, your back's kind of up against the wall, right?
Yeah, totally. Like I'm living in my girlfriend's basement, my wife now, but my girlfriend at the time, living in her parents' basement, total
Great
bump.
start to prove her that you got that.
Probably haven't shaved in like 3 months or left the basement, seen daylight, just sitting in front of my laptop trying to figure out what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And we started selling parts. First month was like $1,500, which is nothing, but it was a huge victory because it was like $100 worth of product. And within the first year, which was, I'm just trying to go, 2009 was our first full year.
Yeah.
In our first year, we did about 120,000 in sales.
Okay.
And, without going into too much detail of all of the in-between, I have different partners today, and I've gone through a few business transitions, but that business has grown from a basement and, myself and my then partner, Matt, to close to 50 staff, Ontario and Michigan. And we're going to probably do over 30 million in sales this year.
Oh, that's the same business. It just kept going.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's a substantial difference in terms of size, and obviously a lot of lessons, a lot of processes, and a lot of strategy, and things are very different now than then. But yeah, that base skill set kind of led me to where I am today with that business.
I mean, I guess only 11 years. So, I mean, yeah, that's awesome now. That's huge growth in 11 years.
Yeah.
In 2009, were like when you were living in your girlfriend's basement, now wife, were your family like, hey, Leigh, are you gonna get a job and like pay us back? Like, what was happening there?
So in the early phases, in the really early phases of this, I actually got back into driveway maintenance and sealing the summer after I started this parts business. So it was kind of like the parts business has started. It was not requiring much time. We had friends of the family that were involved in the business at the time that were helping with doing the order fulfillment. Yeah. So Matt was my partner up until 2013. I bought him out.
Yeah.
And we both decided like we need more, like we still need a day job, like we need to make money while we build this. So yeah, we went driveway sealing the next summer and hammered out, picked up a truck and worked for 6 months straight to be able to actually have some spending money while that business continued to grow. And so it was days on sealing and it was evenings, checking emails, replying to people and processing orders. So
So
it
were you
was really,
shipping them out all by yourself?
sorry?
Were you doing all the shipping and fulfillment?
No, we had, during the time when we were working, we had friends of the family
Gotcha.
that were taking care of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that big. I mean, at that time, and we were lucky to have, it was a great day when there was like 10, 15 orders a day, right? It's like, now it's like, 3,000 orders a day, is a big day.
Right. That's wild. That's such a great story. Because usually when I ask people for the story, it's like, oh, they give me like 5 minutes, like, oh, I did this and this. It's like this, we went on this huge roller coaster with you. So I appreciate.
Yeah, it's honestly, I wouldn't trade any of the experiences I've had for anything. I think everyone's got a story to tell. It's whether or not, it's how much it really means to them, right? So for me, my story is meaningful because I think, I've been through so many challenges. Like I've had my back up against the wall more times than any human ever should in their lifetime. But it's like, I think that progressively I'm getting better and better. And I think that those experiences have been so valuable for my learning, right? Like having to go through all those different experiences, doing different things. They're really reflection points for me. So I like to kind of share that because I think it gives better definition to people in terms of who I am and where I've come from.
Well, and a lot of people, they probably look at you now and they're like, man, like, I wish I was Leigh, but you kind of painted a picture there that if anybody extrapolates it at any length, like you're in your girlfriend's basement, like it's not a pretty picture, right? So, and that is the journey. Would you say you perform better under pressure?
I would say that yes, because if it wasn't for the pressure of all the crap from my mid-20s, I don't think that I would have had I don't know if I would have. I've always had drive. It's always been there, but I think that pressure forces you to make things clear and think about things clearly. At least it does for me. Whenever I'm under, under a button, it forces me to take a step back and really think about what am I trying to do here, and kind of just check myself, right? But yeah, I mean, I'd say I think there are better people under pressure than me, but I'm definitely not terrible at it. I don't think I think I come out okay.
Yeah, because I mean, whether it was purposeful or not, you threw. My next question was going to be, do you think you kind of take risks that ultimately will lead to pressure, and you kind of are not very risk averse? It sounds like.
So oddly enough, like not when it comes to. I'd say that I'm relatively fearless when it comes to, business investments. I always and so this can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
So it's a very good thing when you're on a good trajectory.
Right.
To be able to throw cash at things and try things. It can be the opposite if you don't have the goods, if you don't have a good idea, or if you don't, so I don't know. I'd say at this point, I've had both. I've had successes and failures, at least what I would consider to be successes and failures. And I don't know that there's a perfect formula for anyone, to be able to meticulously execute everything. I think you're going to get both of those. And I think both of those experiences are important.
They're what have made you into who you are today, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So that, that's kind of the, niche industries as it is today, right? Is kind of where that journey you just led us on, right?
Yeah. So RynoWorx kind of takes off partway after the parts business. So I mean, you've heard my background on asphalt. Starting from when I was a teenager. I mean, going back beyond that, my dad had a paving company in the early '90s, late '80s. My grandfather was an estimator for a paving company for like 45 years. So like, it's just pavement's a family thing. I'm a third generation pavement guy. I just kind of decided that, given my skill set with sourcing and dealing with different manufacturers, that the right way to re-enter the paving game was not as someone doing paving, it was as a supplier of equipment, for people that are out there every day, in the grind. Um, so yeah, I mean, in kind of around 2012, I want to say, I this is maybe 3 years after the parts business had started. I had some fairly good sourcing connections. A friend of mine, Eric, who's still a partner in RynoWorx to this day, he was an engineer, a mechanical engineer at BlackBerry. And if anyone knows 2012, 2013 with BlackBerry, those were some dark days. It's kind of like slow wind down, and the business was just eating itself from the inside.
Any younger listeners will not even know what BlackBerry is.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's yeah. So the alignment was kind of good because he was kind of winding down, losing interest, knowing that things were going to come to an end, not knowing when.
Yeah.
And I had sort of had this thought of wanting to make equipment for pavement maintenance.
Okay.
Why? I don't know. I don't know why I ever thought I don't know why I went down this path. There's no good answer for it other than more so in my younger years, I think I just chased every squirrel I could find, and it was just like, that looks cool.
You feel like you probably have a ton of ideas that you only.
Oh yeah, like my brain is exhausted at the end of a day, and but especially then, it was like anyone that was around me in 2013, I think would probably just say Leigh would try and do anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that was very true. So melters, yeah, that was the flavor of the day that turned serious. And I reached out to, at that point, the first website I found, I think, was Asphalt Kingdoms.
Okay.
And I reached out and said, hey, look, I'm building these.
How'd you
do you want to buy? Do you want to? No.
Yeah. Okay. Go.
Do you want to buy from me? And yeah, I think Judd called me within 5 minutes.
Okay.
And we had an hour-long discussion on that. And it sort of started as, well, he's a reseller of equipment. We'll just make equipment and sell to him. Right? We'll do the
sales audience already.
Yeah, it's like we already have these pieces in place. I've got to give credit to him for putting up with how poor our deliverables were, and for dealing with it, because yeah, we had some real challenges in the early years. Just getting our feet wet, with just dealing with manufacturers and getting our quality under control. But yeah, that's kind of that was our starting point, was kind of 10-gallon melter applicators and supplying AK. And
so did these exist on the market at that time?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so why did you think, oh, we're going to build one too? How many were people?
It started like any resale idea. It's like, hey, these cost X amount of money, and I think I can make them for this. It was just the way that I originally looked at this was probably overly simplistic, as someone inexperienced, tends to do. But I just looked at it and say, yeah, I can give this to this factory, have them make it for me, and just ship boxes and make $500-600 a box, right? Why not, right?
And Eric was going to do the design work for it.
Yeah, and in the very first one, he had no design hand in. Where he came in was the design was so bad on the first one. I'm like, man, I need help.
Yeah.
I'm supplying this product, and we got issues all over the place. And
did you design the first one?
It was literally just a replica of an existing version.
Nice.
With zero, there was no quality control checks or inspections. It was just, yeah, build this to the best of your ability. And our what we received from the factory was terrible.
That's such a classic engineering move. I think I mentioned in my message to you that I actually went through mechanical engineering, graduated, and did design work, and that that's what everyone does, is they just rip off the one that's out there.
Yeah, and it was just so on top of that, at this point in time, we weren't a manufacturer.
Yeah,
we were a sourcing and distribution company. All we did was import and move boxes, right? Yeah. So these things came in with all sorts of mechanical problems, and I had to figure out how to devise a quality control inspection. So we created a QCR. developed a system for giving reports back to the manufacturer on very grassroots, like, simplistic stuff. But then Eric,
local manufacturer, or is it were you?
No, this at this point. So now we have a pretty strong bridge of both local and Chinese suppliers.
Yep.
At this time, it was pure China. So, and it was horrible.
So there's lag time between you giving them the first work order to receiving it to then saying this is terrible. Let's fix it.
For sure. Yeah. So I mean, it was horrible. It was a bad experience. Anyone that wasn't stubborn, that had a brain, would have quit and just been like, cut your losses.
Yeah.
But we continued. Eric kind of came on around the end of 2012, 2013, after we'd gone through like a couple of batches of bad stuff, and started engineering it, and like actually, drawing and speccing, and we actually kind of clicked in at that time, and we were still kind of building we had our own kind of slightly unique version by that point when he came out, because it wasn't an exact replica of what we had copied. It was more or less a kind of an evolved version of that. And then where things really started to change was like 2014, 2015. We actually, we had enough sales. We're like, okay, well, we got to create more stuff. We got to look for more than just a single melter. So we actually developed the first melter with a removable burner inside. So, RynoWorx that's kind of what put us on the map. Was a lot of people don't know that we existed prior to 2016, because that was kind of our unofficial like launch. And yeah, I mean, that was kind of the first innovative thing that we came out with, was, where we actually went past, just a plain melter to try and make it better.
Right.
And, I'd say kind of fast forwarding to this date, from 2016 to today, we are now at, probably 16 or 17 different versions of equipment, like different styles.
Yeah.
Multiple versions in for a lot of the products. Our most recent, melters, the new RY10 Pro and Elite versions that launched this year.
Outside of the Pavement Expo, right?
Yeah, like those are fully, like, those were a complete ground up rebuild with all of the knowledge that we've gained over the last 8 years. So I mean, everything from heating chamber,
from the field and everything.
Yeah, significant adjustments. Everything from burner component sizes, material types, heating chamber sizes and design, locations. Like, if you took mechanical engineering at any standpoint, you'd understand that there are 500 different angles that we went through in the improvement process of those new machines.
So many things to tweak, right?
Yeah, and I mean, anyone looking at it in detail and comparing ours to anyone else on the field will understand why we did all those things.
Yeah.
Everything from a slight lean on the machine for overflow protection, to the valve that basically keeps material inside the kettle to prevent cooling material inside the valve, to the lid opening front to back to protect sensitive components and to also allow it to be loaded from 3 sides, like ergonomic and adjustable bars, like a million little nuances. So I mean, and that's, I'd like to say that, like, RynoWorx, in as much as we're not a custom builder, we're a mass builder. We build a lot of a few things, not a few of a lot of things. The benefit with that is I think we pack a lot of value in our product today. The drawback of that is we don't have the flexibility to change in a dime. So I know it's the most painful part of my day in RynoWorx is listening to feedback that I want to action immediately.
Yeah.
Because I get like tons of contractors, have become kind of personal friends, and I often will troll Facebook posts a bit and help where I can. But yeah, the most painful part of being a mass builder and not a custom builder is, it's like, damn it, we can't, like, all these ideas need, the life cycle to get them implemented is a few years away always. So
now you've got this whole process of design and test and all of that you've got to go through.
Yeah, it's pretty much like, from the the date we begin discussing something to the date of execution, 18 months would be a great time window to be able to do it in.
Yeah, and for anyone listening, that's actually not a slow time window to make changes like that for the manufacturing world.
No, 18 months is actually lightning fast.
Yeah, that's really fast. I've worked on projects that I took over a project from a guy who left the company I was working at, and management thought he was like a couple weeks away or like a month away from being done, and they were like already selling the product. It took us 2 years to finish it up because we actually had to start from scratch. But it's just like little things, and you got to test everything because your name is on the plate, right?
Yeah, and even with all that, you still miss things. Like being a smaller company, you still miss things. I mean, we're still developing our internal production and quality processes. Like we're in our infancy.
Yeah,
What I will say, and that's anyone that thinks a small business is going to put out the same level as someone like Apple really just has the wrong expectations. But I think the one thing that small businesses can do is provide greater support, faster part support, and hopefully work really hard on that end to make sure that you acknowledge the issues and do your best to fix them. But I am fairly confident that I'd say that we're probably the end of 2021. We should have kind of an infrastructure in place internally where it's going to really up our game from a quality and production standpoint.
nice.
Like starting to implement some really cool processes and checks. And yeah, I mean, we have a ton of documentation to catch up on, but that's kind of the next big thing for us is like we have the innovation, we have the innovative ideas. And we know what to build, we know what we can make, we know what people want. It's being able to get it to them in a clean, smooth equipment launch process, and getting the quality standards, on day one of launch to where we want them to be. So that's kind of where we're focusing right now a lot, is trying to really improve those key areas. And it's challenging.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts, right? Not in just the machine, but in the business. I was watching a video, and I think I caught that you guys now have like pressure. You can do variable pressure testing on the machine, so you can test how it would work at elevation. Is that right?
So you mean on the
On the
are you
burners
talking
and stuff.
on the burners?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, for burners, I mean, the only difference is basically the jetting. So we do check. We kind of do. We do checks to make sure that the jets that we're using are sort of acceptable within most of the U.S. Now you get to high elevations like in Washington and Colorado, parts of Utah, and there's not a one size fits all for that, but we do have a jetting solution for those climates as well when needed.
Just because of the pressure differences for the propane gas, right?
Exactly, pressure differences and the oxygen level changes at altitude.
Right, right. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you were talking about in another video about just running things into the ground and figuring out exactly where they fail. Is that kind of what you're talking about with the testing side of things?
Yeah, so I mean, like up until kind of going into the last couple years, our testing's been very sporadic. We're working right now on hiring a full-time person that will do nothing but be out all day, every day. So basically, we're going to pay for 2,500 hours a year of someone's time to just beat the hell out of equipment and document different pieces.
Yep.
Obviously, that's been a challenging thing too, because like being a small business, I mean, RynoWorx is still not a large company, right? Like it still has very small staffing budgets. I mean, our staff budget right now is only about 600,000 a year.
Yeah.
You don't, anyone that knows the cost of labor knows that doesn't go very far. And when you have to be able to provide manufacturing, fulfillment, shipping, receiving, customer service, finance, warehousing, like
You've already
all
eaten
of,
that up just from what you're saying.
yeah. So it's never enough. What I think kind of the sweet spot for us is probably when that budget hits something like somewhere between 1.5 million and 2 million. Like once the business is up at the 10 million a year, 15 million a year in sales, I think staff budgets at that point allow for more permanent, dedicated, and I'd say I think that's the right word to use. I think more dedicated, QC and testing staff.
Yeah, because you guys are obviously doing it. It's just you don't have someone doing it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's it's one of the many hats that sometimes Eric will wear, sometimes I'll wear it. Like, it gets tossed around. It's whoever needs to get it done. The challenge with that is you never get really great at it, right? You're getting it done, but it's never top notch. You can never take something to 99%. You always got to stop at 90, right?
Right. So guys, buy RynoWorx so they can do more testing. But there, I just solved the problem right there for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I mean that's the gist of it. I mean, right now it's production and quality are right now the current pieces we're tackling, and testing is right up there to be earmarked for another full-time one. So I think the real breakthrough for us kind of comes when we can get past, like I was saying, right, getting past the awkward small phase of a business into where it's over the hill with a larger staff budget. It's a hard phase to endure, but
you don't want to expand too fast and implode, right?
No, I mean I think that's true too. So yeah.
So it's that balance. That's awesome. That's cool. So I mean, you guys are a big name now at the Pavement Expo. I would like to get to the expo this year. I don't know what's happening with it, and the Canadian border situation is a little bit funky too. I don't know if you've probably looked into it as well.
So I mean, we're not. I'd say right now we're still inconclusive, to be honest. I mean, I think it's part of the same reasons that you're dealing with, but part of it is, our staff have families, and as much as, getting down there is something I love to do. There's probably no event every year that I enjoy more. It's, I've got to kind of be sensitive to the people that work for us, and if taking them to the expo means they've got to come back and not see their loved ones for 2 weeks because of quarantine rules, that's probably not a decision I would feel comfortable making.
Yeah, it becomes a different ball at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So undecided. We did reserve. We have a booth there. Whether or not we're going to be there, right now it's not looking very good, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, time will tell, right?
Yeah,
time will tell. Wow. Well, we've been on quite a journey here, from you as a 16, 17-year-old, door knocking to kind of coming to where we are today. I want to value your time here, so I won't keep you much longer. But if you could, kind of pull out a couple things from each of the endeavors, each of the, knocking your head against the wall, being up against the ropes there. What do you think is kind of one or two things that you've continually gone back to that's gotten you through? Because you were saying too with RynoWorx, like at the beginning there, a lot of people would have just folded and walked away, but you just pushed through for some reason, right? So what is it that kind of gets you through those situations?
I'd say rule number one, and it is probably the most important rule certainly to me, is when you do not have specific knowledge or experience in key areas, trust people that do, and seek to learn from them. I think that don't try and be a hero. You can learn a lot from just surrounding yourself with experts in areas and listening to what they have to say and listening to their experiences. I think people will give you mixed opinions on partnerships, and how well they work out. And I would say that I haven't really had any bad experiences. I think good partnerships are the greatest experience you can have in business, because you get to leverage not only your talents and what you know and what you're good at, but if you've picked the right partners, it's not someone that echoes what you do. It's someone that's really, really good at everything you don't do, or everything that you aren't, right? And I know that sounds like a generalization. It's like, oh yeah, find people that are good at but it is so, at least in my, I'd say even more so now, in growing a business than in the beginnings, like the value of trusting and having good partnerships, whether it be a vendor or whether it be a partner in an actual partner in your business.
Right.
Not trying, focusing on what you do well and allowing the others around you that are really good at other areas to do the other areas, and trusting those abilities. I think that's a really good.
Was that always easy for you?
Nope.
No.
Terrible.
Because I tend to be someone that wants to jump in and do it if it's not being done right.
My automatic, like my intuition from early days was just do everything myself. Like, don't even question whether someone else can do it. It's like, oh, this needs to be done, I should do it, right? Yeah. Now it's, this needs to be done, step back, who's the right person to do this?
Right.
You can't do that when it's only you.
Yeah.
But you can do that when it's only you, if you can figure out who the right person is to call or to reach out to. I think that,
and from a partnership, like you're saying, with a vendor or a supplier or someone who can, come in and do a skill set. Yeah.
Right. So RynoWorx doesn't retail products. We're not a retailer.
Yeah.
And actually, Mission actually doesn't retail its own products either. It has a sales and marketing partner.
Yeah.
And RynoWorx has sales and marketing partners.
Right.
Like dealerships and online dealers. And more so now than ever, I have a great deal of confidence in our retail partners. They're the marketers. What I try to do is say, okay, like, I'm not going to tell you how to do your job. You tell me you tell me how you want this to be packaged.
Right.
I'll try to look at it and do my best to position a product from a logistics perspective, from packaging, from an inclusion, from a branding. I will try to do everything on the back end that has to do with that physical item to facilitate commerce in the most convenient ways possible.
Right.
But that's what I do, right? Those are the strengths of my business.
Right.
I'm not a sales and marketing company, but we work really well with sales and marketing companies because we do all of the things that we do really well.
I love that.
So I think that that's really an important one. And I think that especially, if you're looking to grow your business, if you're serious about it, you cannot do it. You can't do it by yourself.
No.
You may think that you can, but along the way in any business that has more than one person, you had some help, whether or not you choose to admit it or not. And what's maybe more important is, if you did have help, are you using the help that you're using in the right manner? If you've got someone, with a finance background, doing your customer service, and you're outsourcing your bookkeeping, why are you doing that, right? Like, right. It's making yourself, taking an inventory on who you have, what they're good at, and ultimately, instead of doing everything yourself, building the strategy and trusting the people that are good to be able to do it.
That's huge. I mean, that's kind of the point at which I find myself is I'm the bottleneck right now. I had to grind and bootstrap it for a bit, but if I want to scale, bringing on people. So now it's, all right, I got to get everything out of here and put it on paper and in video so that people can.
Yeah. So in a single, for a week, write down everything that you do every day and the time you spend doing it.
I love that.
And I think you may not be able to you'll never be able to get rid of everything that you do, and you shouldn't want to, but hopefully, like, it's all incremental, right? I mean, if you have a 40-hour week and you're spending 12 hours doing administrative functions, and hypothetically your biggest bottleneck is you want to take on more clients, but you don't have enough production time, and right. You're the producer. Well, okay, then take on more work and shell off your administrative stuff, right? Like, yeah. we tend to get bogged down and think that we have to be the one to do things. And that's a normal feeling. And I can say, like, that is one of the hardest struggles for a business, in getting out of a small business and a sole proprietor or a single owner operated business to getting into the next layer, which is, employees to do things. And then there's a third layer that I believe is true, and that's the being able to disconnect and let go and trust people within your organization to be the experts in certain areas, and being a leader rather than a doer. And that's kind of sort of the three buckets that I look at. And I think that they're all challenging, but certainly, trusting expertise is a really critical piece. So another one I think is worthwhile too is when you hire people in a small business, you tend to find people that you're close with or that you're friends with. So in my case, I've had mixed experiences on that.
Yeah.
I've fired a stepfather, and I've worked with a mother-in-law for 11 years as a partner.
Okay.
One of them obviously worked very well. One of them did not work well at all. So I think, but that comes back to doing evaluating people is so important, right? Like doing an assessment of who you're bringing in for what skills they have, what their demeanor is, and what your expectations are of them. I've learned that those are pretty important things to figure out in advance before you just give someone a job.
Right.
But it's often one that people don't think a lot about. They just take the first thing that comes to them, right?
Oh, if it's family, I got to do it, right?
Yeah.
No, that's huge. I appreciate that. I really do. It hits home for me, and I think there's a lot of small business owners that listen to this. So, if you take away something, that I think that's a nugget right there. Awesome, Leigh. Well, I do appreciate your time once again, and I think I certainly walked away with some good value, and certainly it was an entertaining story. So, really appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming on, and guys, go buy RynoWorx.
Thanks, Louis.
Spend more money and time on testing, and they'll make a better product for you.
Right on. Amen to that. Thanks for your time today, Louis.
Absolutely. I'll just pause it here, and then we'll just wrap up off air.
Sure.